Hi everyone, Emil here. There are some bad habits that we develop during our daily driving routines that we need to get rid of when we go out to the racetrack. In this video, we'll talk about what are these habits, a correct alternative, and a priority level to establish on which ones to work on first. The first one is vision. While commuting to work or during long, exhausting trips, we get used to looking at the bumper of the car in front of us. Unfortunately, most novice drivers bring that along to the racetrack. On the track, the focus is higher, there are a lot of things going on, and the speeds are much higher as well. If we keep focusing on what's in front of us, we will have hard time in picking up pace. I always remind my students to look ahead. Sometimes during easier turns or straights, I ask them to tell me what are they looking at. This will help them develop the necessary visual sensory skills required for high performance driving. An instructor should be able to give the student as many reference points as possible, but most of the time the student spends way too much time focusing on these reference points. So let's get into an example in where I will explain on how to properly use reference points while looking ahead at the same time. Right now I am approaching turn 1 at VIR. My braking point is at around the 4 marker, and as I am approaching my turning point, which is right past the arrow, a fraction of a second before I start turning the wheel, my eyes are already looking at the apex curbing. As I come out of turn 2, I start looking at the tech inspection barn and I drive towards it. As I approach the curbing on the right side, I start turning the wheel and aim my vision to the apex. As soon as I am about to hit the apex, I start looking at the exit curbing. This was a short example on how to use vision and hit your reference points at the same time. The second technique novice drivers should work on is braking. Most beginner students are having a hard time in applying the same braking intensity. This is another bad habit developed on the street. I agree that it would look weird to brake as hard as possible before you stop at the traffic light, but in a high performance driving environment, it's exactly what you have to do. The initial braking application needs to be smooth, then you have to squeeze the brake pedal just like you would squeeze a stress ball. Do not slam on the brakes because you will lock up your wheels and flat spot your tires. When the wheels are locked up, you will not be able to turn anymore. In case this happens, release and apply the brake again, but smoother this time. Finish up braking in a straight line by releasing the brake pedal smoothly as well. If you don't apply the proper braking intensity all the time, two things will happen. First, you could be approaching the turn in a much higher speed than you should, which will make it much more difficult to complete the turn properly and may even cause a spin or a crash. The second outcome is that you or your instructor will not be able to figure out an optimal braking point for you to use. Don't worry if you get to the turning point with lower speed. Your instructor should be able to adjust your braking point, but first he needs to see consistent high intensity braking from your behalf. The next bad habit to work on is the lack of smoothness in your inputs. We talked a bit about being smooth while braking, but you also have to be smooth while turning the wheel. I get it, sharp turning is great while autocrossing, but it is not so great while driving on the road course because the speeds are much higher. Every time you turn, brake or accelerate, you are shifting the weight balance of your car. We will talk about weight transfer in a different video, but for now what you need to understand is that if the weight balance in your car changes very quickly and drastically, you will upset the car and may lose control or even cause a spin. The way to remedy this is by smooth braking, throttle and steering application. Take a look at my hands while I'm driving. My steering inputs are smooth and controlled. Another bad habit is throttle application while there is still considerable steering input. In other words, the lack of unwinding the steering wheel. If you do not unwind the steering wheel while you are applying throttle, your front tires will lose grip, also known as understeer, which we will talk about in another video. There is an analogy often used by instructors. Imagine you have a string connecting the steering wheel to the gas pedal. As you accelerate, the string is opening the wheel. If you keep holding steering input while accelerating and you are running out of pavement, applying even more steering will make it worse. The remedy is to ease off the gas and take some of the steering out. The last bad habit I would like to talk about is sawing the steering wheel. Some may disagree, but my opinion is that steering wheel sawing doesn't belong in high performance driving. As you develop your skills, you will realize that it will be much more difficult to make corrections while sawing. Also, sawing changes your grip, and in case you lose control, it will be hard to recover. The most optimal hand positioning is 9 and 3 o'clock. This positioning will enable a firm grip and the ability to steer without taking your hands off the steering wheel. On the majority of tracks, you'll be able to complete any turn within a 90-degree steering input. Alright, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to comment below and let me know what kind of content you'd like to see in future videos. I will do my best to answer as many comments as possible. If you have any other questions, you can also find me on social media and I will have the links in the description. Also, feel free to check out my other videos. See you next time.